Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our normal episode of Eating the Elephant, where we talk about Hurricane Michael insurance issues and recovery, give you a few tips to eat this elephant that is hurricane recovery, and break it into bite-sized pieces for you. Want to talk about a few things tonight, and I think we'll be a little bit more brief. You'll notice from the background we're going from somewhere else tonight. I'm actually at my office. We're getting drywall this week, and I'm very excited at my office, as some of you have already experienced, and some of you hopefully will experience very soon. I want to talk a couple of things about unlicensed operators. There's been a lot of talk about licensing and what it means and what it doesn't mean, and I think everybody needs to have a little primer on licensing. There's been a lot of talk on Facebook in particular, Twitter a little bit less so, about licensed and unlicensed operators. What you can do anything you want to, basically. You can give medical or legal advice, you can give contracting advice, you can pretty much do anything you want to do as long as you don't charge for it. So if somebody gives you advice on what they think you should do with your house or your insurance, or whether you should fire your agent or your PA or hire a new attorney, any of that is fair game as long as no one is charging you. Once someone has a financial interest in that transaction, then somebody may need a license. We've had some conversations about what trades and what talents require a license. Obviously, if someone is going to give you legal advice and they're going to charge you for it, they need to be an attorney. If someone is going to negotiate your claim for a fee, then they probably need to be a public adjuster. Now, I don't want anybody to be confused, because if you're a contractor and you are discussing your scope of work, you're discussing the cost of your work, you're discussing the kind of things that need to be done with an insurance company, you can do that perfectly well without a public adjuster license. Likewise, myself as an agent, I can talk to you as my client all day long about the kind of work that needs to be done. I can talk to you about the cost of that work. I probably wouldn't get too much into the cost of the work because, quite frankly, I'm not a contractor. I don't know what it costs to bang nails, to put on shingles, those kinds of things. But I can certainly discuss the issues with you, and I can certainly discuss with you what's going to be covered and what's not. That's perfectly reasonable. Now, again, if you're getting advice from someone maybe outside your normal circle that you're not paying any money to, they don't have to have a license at all. You can get medical advice from the guy down the street. He can tell you should have brain surgery, and as long as he's not charging you for it and he's not holding himself out as a doctor, he's allowed to do that. The question is whether you should take that advice, and that's where you, in this post-Michael world, need to make some reasonable decisions and get advice from people that you trust and people that you think are very, very qualified. So I don't think we don't want to drag ourselves too far into the weeds on that, but I will say this: with trade contractors, it becomes an issue. And there's been a lot of questions about what kind of trades require licenses and what do not. In general, I'm going to be very general about this, and if somebody wants to be nitpicky, they can certainly pick this apart. If you're going to do roofing, you need a license. Electrical work, plumbing work needs a license. If you're going to do something that involves structural work, in other words, moving a party wall that is weight-bearing, those kinds of things require a license. If you're going to be supervising other contractors, you need a GC's license. Now, if you're going to come in and tear things out, mitigation contractors generally do not need a license. If you're going to hang drywall, you probably don't. And if you're going to do flooring or something like that, you probably don't need a license. So be really careful. And you also need to understand that having an LLC doesn't mean you have a license. So you need to go to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, and you need to see what they have to say about your contractor. You need to ask them for a certificate of insurance before they come on your property, and you need to see if they've got workers' compensation coverage or a workers' compensation exemption in some cases, and you need to make really, really sure that they have general liability insurance. And you need to make sure that when you get that certificate of insurance, you verify it with the provider. On the top left corner of the certificate of insurance you receive, there will be an agent's name. And that agent is somebody you need to call, and you need to verify that that certificate of insurance is legitimate, that it's good, and that it is appropriate for the kind of work you're having done. Because it's certainly possible that someone, say from, I don't know, Tennessee is here. But if their policy doesn't necessarily contemplate work in Florida, that could be a problem. If they're let's say they're a drywall contractor and they're being charged a rate for framing or inside carpentry, and they're going to get up on your roof, then that's probably not appropriate, and that should be a little bit of a red flag. If you've got specific questions about a certificate of insurance, if it feels funny to you, you can certainly give us a call, and we'll let you know what we think. But you need to make sure that whatever kind of information you get, wherever it's possible, you need to verify it. When you're handed a license, you can call Department of Business and Professional Regulation or look it up online. And if you get insurance information, you can call the agent and verify and make sure it's legitimate. I want to talk a little bit about loss assessment coverage. We talked a little bit about this last time, but I got some follow-up questions that made me think I didn't do a very good job in covering it. If you are a member of a homeowners association or a condo association and there is damage to the common elements, if you're in a condo, let's say the roof is torn off the building, well, there's going to be insurance proceeds that come in from the master insurance policy, but there may be a shortfall of a couple $100,000 in deductible or something such as that, and you will receive a loss assessment letter. That can be a second claim for Hurricane Michael because you may have had damage to your unit, and this is a second claim. It may or may not involve a second deductible, but it will involve a second date of loss. And that can be a little bit technical, it can be a little bit strange, and you're going to want to call your agent and ask questions about that and ask how that applies to you. If you're, let's say you're a member of a homeowner association, say a controlled gated community, and there are common elements that are damaged, you may receive you may receive some sort of assessment letter as well, and if you do, that's not a problem. You may have coverage. It's a little bit less likely that you'll have coverage, and if you have coverage under what they call an HO3 policy, which is typically what's provided for a standalone home, then you may have only $1,000 in coverage or something like that. But that's not a problem. It may be applicable to your loss. Now, having said that, in my particular neighborhood out in Lynn Haven, we lost a lot of trees, and there was upwards of a couple $100,000 paid to remove those trees that didn't fall on any covered structures. So that may or may not be covered by my loss assessment coverage on my home. I have to tell you, I didn't file a claim because I didn't think it would be covered under mine, but it may be covered under yours, and it's always a good idea to call your agent or whoever provides your insurance for you to get a little bit of advice, and when in doubt, always file the claim. Always, always, because you never are going to get unless you ask. So that's something you should put forward every chance you get. There's been some questions this week about sort of slow playing claims, and I'm going to leave the insurance companies out of this for just a minute. I think my biases towards insurance companies are well known. I make my living in the insurance industry. But what I am hearing is there are a lot of things that have really gotten stuck in the mud. We have a couple here, and that's certainly an issue that we're working on. But it seems like an awful lot of the claims that are moving the most slowly are ones that are represented. And by that I mean a public adjuster or an attorney. And it seems like some of those firms are a little bit overworked right now. And I'm not criticizing them. We've all had our times where we're overworked. But what I will say is, if you are represented by either an attorney or a public adjuster, now is the time to really be assertive with them. You need to call them, and you need to be upfront about. If you'll look back several episodes into episodes maybe in the teens or 20s with Eating the Elephant, I've told everybody, keep your foot on the gas. You need to call your insurance adjuster. You need to call your insurance agent. You need to press. You need to press. You need to press. You need to be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And what I will say now is, it seems like some of the people that are getting stuck in the mud are represented by public adjusters and attorneys. And the reason I want to point this out is not to criticize those people. It's because some folks, particularly that have had a lot of damage, have sort of turned it over to people like that and have walked away. And I don't think that's appropriate. Even if you have an advocate that you're paying, you still need to advocate for yourself. You still need to call them. You still need to check in with them. It is still very appropriate for you to press them to make sure your file stays on the very top of the pile of files on their desk. Everyone in this town right now needs something. Some people need soffit, some people need drywall, some people just need a little attention, a little help. They need perhaps, let's say you just need help preparing your contents list or submitting your additional living expense receipts. Everyone needs something. So it's up to you. It is up to you to stay on your public adjuster, your attorney, your agent, your adjuster, to make sure that your file stays on the very top of the file, on the top of the pile, and that you get attention before the next person. We have seen lots and lots of people that frankly are feeling a little guilty about that. I met with someone today who is in relatively good shape, has a roof, is still living in their home, very, very sweet lady, and she feels guilty about calling me or calling her adjuster or calling anybody else to get attention on her home because she feels like she's in better shape than most. While I certainly appreciate that sentiment, it's not going to get you any help. You really need to press forward, even if you feel like you're one of those people that needs it less than everyone else, because you're the person that is best suited to get some attention. So keep pressing, keep pressing. I want to reiterate to people, because I have had this question come up again, that you can cash a check and it doesn't close your claim. The only way your check cashing, if you get a check for your insurance proceeds, the only way that that is final is if you either sign a separate release, releasing your insurance company from any further liability, which I will almost universally suggest you not do, or if something on the check itself, not on the check stub, but on the check itself says full and final release or something such as that. If it says final payment on the check, you need to worry about that. But short of that, cash the check, even if you think it's the wrong amount, it's not enough. It doesn't prevent you from going back to the insurance company and pursuing them for additional funds. That is most common right now. Everybody gets a check, and then everybody gets a second or third or fourth check. It's extremely unusual for someone to get all of their money up front in a totally satisfactory way that is going to cover all of their damage. It doesn't make sense. It's really, really hard to get the number right the first time around. So chances are you're going to get a check or maybe two or three that are still going to be inadequate. Cash that check. We'd rather have that money in your bank account than the insurance company's bank account. You can spend that. You can get to work on your roof, on your inside, on your drywall, your carpeting, your hardwood, whatever you need to do. And then you can come back later and you can pursue the insurance company for more money. I want to put one more thing out there before we close tonight. And I want to give a shout out to Gulf Coast Community College. I'm sorry, Gulf Coast State College. I'm still old school and I slide back into the vernacular from years ago. I don't think that we're giving education in our town enough credit. I know that the public school system is under tremendous pressure right now. Budget cuts, they're talking about having to lay off teachers. There are lots of students that have left the system. But I want to give you guys a little bit of encouragement in our town that your state college, Gulf Coast State College, is still doing a great job and is still in really good shape, and is not to say that the public school system is not, but there's more than just doom and gloom. I feel tremendous sympathy for the people that work in the school system and for Mr. Husfeld, who have to manage what's a very difficult situation. But I will say this, Gulf Coast State College suffered more than $39 million in damage. They were only closed for a few days. They fed their staff and students for weeks after the storm, and I will tell you that scholarship money was not interrupted. Their staff was awarded additional funds to help them through the storm from the foundation. The foundation also granted students additional help through their hurricane relief fund, and they continue to do so. Both in the fall and in the spring and probably into next fall, Gulf Coast State College and the Gulf Coast State College Foundation is going to continue to support students. So if you are coming out of high school and you need a good option, that's a great option for you. There's been one rumor that's come around that I want to also kill. I talked to Bill Husfeld personally about this. There's a rumor running around town that dual enrollment classes are falling apart, are being done away with. That is absolutely untrue. That is a rumor that we need to kill. You please pass the word around that dual enrollment classes in Bay County continue to stay just as they were before the storm, and that Gulf Coast State College is open for business. And I have to tell you that if you're one of those people that's coming out of high school and you're not quite sure what to do, you're maybe a little unsteady after the storm, that's probably a good option. And I think if you'll go out and you'll talk to them, that they will do everything they can do to help you to stay here if you can, and to advance your education. So the institutions in Bay County, although some are stressed, we're doing really, really well. I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions, we're getting to the point in the system where people are a little bit stuck, and we're stuck on some of the same things we have been for a while. If you have new topics, please give them to me. You can send them to me via email at trey@huttinsurance.com. And I hope you will spend the rest of this week reflecting a little bit. For those of us that are spiritual in nature, I'm an Episcopalian, and I have to tell you that Holy Week is certainly significant for us. I think it's more significant around the globe because of what's happened at Notre Dame. But I hope you, if you are a religious person, that you'll think and you'll consider what's most important, and consider the fact that even though things have gotten very difficult for us lately, the things that are the most important: family, friends, safety, and the fact that we're much better off than we were 6 months ago. I hope those things will resonate with you, and I hope you have a very, very happy Easter. We're not going to come back to you on Easter Sunday, of course, but we will see you a week from today. Again, I hope you have a good weekend. Happy Easter to everybody.